AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR presented by Relief Windows. I'm Matt.
This is Shaq O'Neal, and I hate Matt.
Paul O'Neal.
They're chanting Paul O'Neal's name.
Mute. So. And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. A plumb ton to do today. LSU scrimmage in Tiger Stadium. The Saints got their behinds kicked by the Los Angeles Rams, and LSU added an NFL player. What the hell? Let's talk about it. It's AFR. Let's begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
So on Friday, we found out that Junior Tuihalamaka joined LSU, the Notre Dame edge. We had that conversation. On Sunday, LSU added its second player via the newfound transfer portal, and that was former Ole Miss tight end Dae'Quan Wright, who, as you now know, finished his eligibility at Ole Miss, was picked up by the Philadelphia Eagles, waived 3 days after that, early August, or was picked up by Cleveland Browns, and then Cleveland Browns waived him. Adam Schefter reported, citing his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, that Dae'Quan Wright's going to LSU. Not surprising, because I've been telling you this for days. And Xavier Harris is next, and LSU leads for him, the big defensive tackle from Ole Miss, and they're not going to stop there. Jack Pyburn, I expect by next Saturday, will be in Baton Rouge also. I do think LSU is also going to add they're looking to add a cornerback, and I think there is a specific quarterback that they would like to add as well. Not as a contender for the job, as a depth piece, someone to help run the scout team. So there's a lot. They're not done here. I understand the optics that a lot of people hate involved with this, and I admit it's icky to look at a player. The graphic Paul just had up on the screen, it's like Ole Miss to Eagles to Browns to LSU. It's weird. Like, it's a weird thing to look at that. And the optics of it are terrible. And I am someone who has sat here and told you over and over and over and over again that my feeling is we have rules. It's just that the adults in the room don't want to enforce the rules because they have too much to gain by having these players and too much to lose by not having them. So they're continuing to bend the rules however and whenever they can. This situation with the 2022 guys, because the 5-for-5 ruling is different to me. Look, as we literally right here, 3:04 Central Time, RJ Lewis is in a Baton Rouge courtroom right now trying to get an injunction to be eligible for LSU men's basketball. I hope he loses. That's a very different situation. That's a kid who had eligibility. He left to go pro, signed a 2-way contract, and is like, my bad, I want to come back because it's not working out. Not okay with that. This is a situation where all the players from the high school class of 2022, because of the new 5-for-5 rule, have an extra year of eligibility. The argument is for these guys who played 4 seasons in 4 years, had they known at the time in December, a lot of them would have never left. They would have used their extra year of eligibility, but at the time they didn't know. So now they know, and they're trying to get back. I understand LSU's the villain. It's pretty obvious why. It's Lane Kiffin and LSU. It's high profile. It's Lane Kiffin. And his reputation is earned from how it unraveled at the Raiders, leaving Tennessee in the middle of the night, getting fired on the tarmac at Southern Cal, leaving Alabama for the national championship game, the way it just unfolded at Ole Miss, all of it. Lane's reputation is earned, okay? I'm not defending Lane Kiffin. That's his history. It's what it is. It's why people view him the way they do. As Ross Dellinger told us on Friday, the injunction or the TRO in the Baton Rouge case last week is one of 18 involving nearly 200 student athletes across multiple sports. And as I was told today, you can expect hundreds of more filings this week with mixed results. And it's going to be very messy for the NCAA because you're going to have two student athletes with effectively the same circumstances that are going to get different results. Think Trinidad Chambliss, Joey Aguilar. Two quarterbacks in the SEC filing in state court to get an injunction for eligibility. Chambliss won his. Aguilar lost his. How do you make sense of that? It's really hard. And that's what's going to happen here with all of this. Now, there's the football component of it, which makes complete and total sense for LSU. And you're going to say to me, but Matt, LSU has Trey'Dez Green.
But Matt, LSU has Trey'Dez Green.
I told you were going to say that. Trey'Dez Green ain't a tight end. He's a receiver. Let's just call it what it is. He's awesome, and he's the best weapon they have, but he's not a prototype. Zach Grace is an H-back. Malachi Thomas is underdeveloped. J.C. Anderson's a true freshman. J.D. LaFleur's a redshirt freshman. Point is, you look at Dae'Quan Wright, and he's 6'4", 255. He's played 4 years of major college football, and in this offense last year had nearly 40 catches and over 600 yards. Plug and play immediately, fills a need. I get it. I get it why competitively they want to add a guy at that spot. Now, Lane Kiffin had a press conference today, and as you can imagine, this is about all he was asked about. He did open the press conference Monday with normally he doesn't open the press conference with a statement. He normally walks right up to the podium and is like, questions. Today he opened with a statement.
So, we have made a decision to recruit some kids around the country. And, through these multiple injunctions around the country, which this is not a first time, they've been in college sports for a while, a group of players were granted a 5th year of eligibility around the country in multiple sports. And through them winning their injunction and entry into the portal, they're available to recruit. And so ourselves, like many places around the country, are recruiting them. And at the end of the day, because of these rulings, they're either going to play for you or they're going to play somewhere else around the country. So we've made a decision to recruit them, like probably most people are.
And that's not going to stop. As a matter of fact, something for whatever you want, I've been saying this for days now, but Xavier Harris trending toward LSU. Some are reporting now that he has committed to LSU. Whatever. I'm telling you all the names that are going to be there, but I've been telling you this for days. So the question, Lane got a bunch of questions, and he deflected a lot of them. He was asked how you make it work financially. What about the roster numbers? I asked him, when do you expect these guys to be on campus? And he just kept deflecting. The biggest hurdle still is the SEC intraconference transfer policy. He was asked about that.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk any specifics of players, especially because they're recruits. So I can't really get into any of that.
Okay. So if you're not familiar, the SEC has a policy, and Greg Sankey last week sent a memo to the member institutions reminding them of this policy, where players cannot transfer within the conference outside of the traditional portal window. So in football, it's January. In January, you can transfer within the conference. Outside of January, you can't. So Greg Sankey reminded the conference of that, basically saying, hey, all these players getting the injunctions, SEC schools, you can't take SEC players. Well, I had a long conversation. I've had conversations with many attorneys, one very familiar, well, several, very familiar with all these goings on. And the feeling is that the players that got the TRO last week, the next step is to get a preliminary injunction, then a permanent injunction. The injunction would not challenge the SEC transfer rule because the SEC is not a named plaintiff. The players are suing the NCAA, not the SEC. So even with the TRO and then presumably the injunction, which that hearing is August 31st, so next Monday, a week from today, they would still have to figure out how to navigate this SEC rule. And the question is, from an SEC perspective, will the conference lift that mandate in this instance? Because would you rather Xavier Harris and Dae'Quan Wright go play at Miami or Ohio State, or would you rather have them play for an SEC school? Now, Ole Miss probably would rather have them leave. But if you're the SEC, wouldn't you rather great players stay in your conference? That's sort of the thought process in the argument. We'll see what comes of it. I don't know what the SEC is going to elect to do, but something else I'll tell you is I'll put this out there. I'm sure someone will go put it on Twitter and claim that they broke the story. But there's the running back that LSU, that was part of the injunction a week ago, TJ Harden. Told you about him. From UC, started at UCLA, played last year at SMU, was in camp with the Seahawks. He is trending heavily now toward Missouri. It looks like he's going to land at Missouri. Big time offer, all that stuff, plug and play running back, whatever. Fine. Now, that's not an intra-conference transfer, but that's another one where you're talking about a guy who's in an NFL camp who's going to be playing in an SEC school. SEC good with that? We'll see. It's something worth following. Texas had an offensive lineman. Was a Texas offensive lineman, was in camp with the Cowboys, is now back at Texas. We okay with this? I get why LSU and Lane Kiffin are the poster child, while a lot of people are going to start there. I get it. But the point is, the SEC, as more and more of these cases go to state court, it's not just going to be Dae'Quan Wright and Xavier Harris. It's going to be dozens, if not hundreds, of student athletes where they're going to have to make a decision. Are you going to go state by state to court and fight all of these? Or are you just going to lift the policy and give a blanket waiver for this one-time deal because of how weird this all is? That's something that I guess we'll find out here in relatively short order because kickoff is Saturday in week 0. You're less than 2 weeks away from kickoff of week 1. Rosters still not completely set. As we learn more, we'll certainly talk about it. All right, it's after further review. Thanks for hanging out with us here. Show Open Every Day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light. The official beer of AFR, the official beer of your Fighting Tigers of LSU, and the official beer of the Saints. So Saints stunk this weekend. Got blown out 34-0. Tell you what, watching the Saints with a few ice-cold Bud Lights might have eased the pain of watching that behind kicking a little bit. Hey, look, and you can get the officially licensed black and gold cans, the official licensed purple and gold cans and aluminum bottles at great local retailers. Whatever you do, drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR. Okay, let me knock out a quick break. Our buddy Wilson Alexander, now with On 3, will join us next. Stay here. It's AFR. AFR. Man, I just mentioned we watched the Saints on Saturdays. I'm sure many of you did as well. And then after the Saints, we had Cade Anderson made his first start. We had a little Saturday night football with the Chiefs and the Bucks. Watched it outside. We threw some steaks on the grill in the outdoor kitchen. Had some friends over. We watched the game on the TV outdoor from the pool. Tell you, there's few better ways to spend spring and summer weekends than hanging out by your pool and in your outdoor kitchen. If that's something that you would love, a dream you would like to make a reality, our friends at Duplessis Pools can do that for you. Go to DuplessisPools.com, DuplessisPools.com. You're from Louisiana, you know how to spell it. DuplessisPools.com. On the homepage, you'll see the Pick Your Pool icon. You can choose from 11 different pool designs. And as you start to pick all the different finishes and features, it'll build the pool right there in front of you in 3D, and the price will adjust as well, so you can see what it cost you. DuplessisPools.com. Named the top 50 pool builder in America by Pool and Spa Magazine. DuplessisPools.com. DuplessisPools.com.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
Yeah, I'm not going to really get into that just because, like you said, are they recruits? Are they not? There's so much gray area there that I'm not going to get into individuals until we fully understand everything.
Lane Kiffin didn't want to say much during his press conference, although he did answer questions for nearly 30 minutes here on Monday. Our buddy Wilson Alexander, national college football writer for On 3. Wilson was in the house today. He's on Twitter at WhalesAnder if you want to give him a follow, at WH Alexander, but I like to say WhalesAnder. Yo, dude, thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm doing all right, Matt. How are you today? It's good to be with you guys.
Thanks, man. We appreciate you. Okay, let's tackle this because you have a piece up at On 3 about the SEC intra-conference transfer policy. Let's start there. give us the flyover, if you would, on where the league is on this, especially because we're talking about Dae'Quan Wright now, Xavier Harris.
Yeah, the SEC has a rule in place that players are not allowed to transfer from one member institution to another outside of what is now the January transfer portal window. But all of these lawsuits have sort of opened up what could be a loophole here that LSU is clearly trying to exploit, in that these players, you could argue, are actually not coming from Ole Miss, but from the NFL. And so with a stop in between, is it really violation of rules? Many in the conference who we spoke to over the last couple of days feel that it is a violation. There are people at other schools who are wanting the SEC to penalize LSU in some way for doing this. But it's still unclear exactly if the SEC is going to do that. The SEC has yet to respond to a request for comment on any of this. And it sounds like maybe Greg Sankey is continuing to mull it over. What is clear is that this could come to a head over the next couple of days. The SEC ADs and presidents are going to meet in person in Birmingham starting tomorrow, which is the same day that Dae'Quan Wright would clear waivers. And it is expected to be a topic of really, I think, heated discussion whether or not this is something that the conference needs to try to come down on LSU with.
I know there's no real precedent for this, meaning an NFL player coming back to college. But is there a similar precedent anywhere, Wilson, by which the league may act upon?
Well, there are basketball cases. I don't know exactly how much precedent that sets, just with some, different sort of standards and rules within basketball, I guess. But I mean, like Mark Mitchell just recently, former Missouri player, was briefly in the professional ranks and then comes back to Kentucky. Last year Alabama played a player for a few games, Charles Benediaco, who Greg Sankey came out and said like this shouldn't be allowed, and then that he ends up having his case overturned, and then he was no longer on the team. So those are kind of the only examples that we have of this so far, and they're in other sports. Wilson
Alexander is with us on 3. So the other thing, Wilson, that I think is fascinating, like clearly LSU is the most public example so far. But I had a conversation today with an attorney, let's just say very familiar with all of these, and said they're expecting hundreds of more filings today and this week. So clearly LSU won't be the last. I mean, I'm fully expecting the running back TJ Harden is going to land at Missouri. He was just with the Seahawks. I mean, there's a lot of there's way more that are coming. So sure. Is the feeling, or do you know with people with whom you spoke, that a mounting number of cases that a possibility is the SEC to give like a one-time waiver or lifting the policy?
I'm really not sure. I wish I knew. It's got to be brought up and discussed over the next couple of days, but I don't know which direction they're going to go in. I mean, with Harden, he was at SMU previously, correct? So
correct, yeah.
That wouldn't be the intraconference transfer. I think that for the league itself, that's probably the biggest sticking point. The league could probably make a lot of things easy and just decide to give the one-time blanket thing for the class of 2022. You also probably open up the floodgates a little bit by doing that, and you could just sort of allow these cases to play out sort of individually like they are, even though there are, as you said, expected to be a lot more coming. NFL cut day is on the 30th.
Yeah.
What are we going to get after that? And so that, is a possibility, but like there aren't quite as many who are, at least at this point, trying to transfer within the SEC, though I would be probably a little bit surprised if Dae'Quan Wright and Xavier Harris are the only examples that end up coming out of that.
Do you have any idea, Wilson? You changed your handle. You took the H out.
Well, I didn't want to disappoint you.
Oh, no.
I didn't want to disappoint you.
Why would you do that? I just looked at your Twitter. You took the H. You're no longer Whale Xander. I don't know what you are.
I had an opportunity to streamline it.
You're Wale Xander now. That's what you are. WALE Xander. You're Wale Xander.
Okay, we can still have some fun with it.
I just noticed that. That made me so disappointed. Hey, do you know? Okay, let's say hypothetically, and I know we don't love to deal in hypotheticals, but let's say these players do play, and the SEC says no, you can't, but they play them anyway. What type of penalties might LSU or any school face?
Yeah, that's one of the big remaining questions here is because from everyone I talked to, while this is something that is not allowed under SEC rule to play somebody who was within the conference previously, there is no actual penalty structure in place for breaking that rule. And so that's something else that has to get figured out is because, you have to talk to ADs and stuff at other schools who are mad at LSU and they start throwing out some fairly outlandish things like 9-figure fines and, postseason bans and stuff like that, where it's like, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit on some of that. But there is definitely a discussion that needs to be had about, okay, if the SEC is going to try to penalize LSU and potentially any other schools that attempt to do this, what is that penalty going to be? That's still something that people don't know.
Do you have any guess, Wilson, as to how this is all going to play out?
If I could do that, I should probably go be an attorney and make a bunch of money doing that. I don't know. I really don't.
Or a sports bettor. That would be good too.
Yeah, I suppose that could be advantageous as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really don't know because there's just so many different directions that it could go in. Obviously, the next thing to know is that these SEC meetings are going to take place this week. Hopefully, the SEC will finally respond and do so in a way that's public because oftentimes it has handled things in-house. The other thing is going to be that preliminary injunction hearing in this Louisiana case specifically. Next Monday is currently scheduled next Monday in Baton Rouge. That could end up getting moved because the plaintiff's attorneys have a previously scheduled hearing in South Carolina. So I'm sure we'll know something within the next 2 weeks. I certainly hope it gets settled before the start of the season.
Right. He's Wilson Alexander at Wale Xander on Twitter if you want to give him a follow there. At W Alexander if you want to give him a follow there. He's On3, national college football writer for On3. Hey, are you going to be in Tiger Stadium for the Clemson game?
I will.
Fantastic.
I definitely will.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
We'll look forward to the coverage, man. Thanks for the time today.
Thanks for having me. You guys have a good one.
All right. Be well. It is Wilson Alexander. It's After Further Review. Brought to you by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com, Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. At Lee Michaels, they are in the celebration business, as they often say. Whatever it is you're celebrating, an anniversary, an engagement, a birthday, getting a player eligible from the NFL, whatever you're celebrating, do so with a gift in the red box from Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com, lmfj.com, or walk into any of the 9 locations, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, New Orleans, Shreveport, and online at lmfj.com. Thrill her with a gift in the red box from Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. All right, that story is not going away. LSU's now up to 3 players that they've added via this newfound transfer portal with Junior Tui Halamaka, Dae'Quan Wright, and now Xavier Harris. And they're not done. As I understand it, they are looking to add a cornerback. The possibility remains of adding some offensive line depth, although it sounds like that may not happen. There was a BYU offensive lineman who was part of that Louisiana TRO case a week ago. But that seems like that may not be on the forefront of the needs. And yes, I do think there's a possibility. I know there's a possibility that LSU is working to add a quarterback. Not someone who's competing for a starting job, but someone who maybe will come in and run the scout team. And so then there's the very real question of how do you make it all work with numbers? Because you have a hard cap on your roster. A year ago when they changed the roster limits, the walk-ons were grandfathered in so they wouldn't lose their spot. In this instance, with these players who are granted their TRO and then potentially a preliminary injunction, they would not be grandfathered in. So you'd have to make your roster numbers work, meaning you probably have to cut from the bottom. And I spoke with a staff member a day ago who told me I've tried very candidly. I have tried ever since the Colorado judge first granted that blanket waiver. I've tried very hard to push to find out if LSU were scouting these players, who they were scouting, names, positions, how they'd make it work, numbers-wise, how many spots they have. And everything was extremely tight-lipped, surprisingly. But one thing that I was told was, one, maybe two spots. But over the weekend was told, listen, we will make it work however we have to, whatever that means. And what that means is cutting players. If you have the opportunity to add viable players that can help you and make you better, and you have to stay within roster limits, then you're going to cut players. And I do think that is something that as LSU continues to add more, they are going to have to subtract. You can't add without subtracting. And so we'll see what the numbers look like, but I do think it's a real thing where you're going to have some tough conversations and guys aren't going to be on the roster that a week ago or a day ago thought they had a spot. Lane Kiffin was asked, can you play that? He was asked how much of this, has he had these conversations with his team? I don't see what number that is. Muse, do you have it? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, our guys know we're in a relentless pursuit of excellence. And I tell them that all the time. That's how I live. It's how I think. It's how I run the team. And that we're always going to look at every avenue to give you the best team, to give you the best players so that you have the best chance to win. And we're always going to be trying to get better in every area, no matter what. And anytime portal or acquisitions come up, that's what we're going to do.
So he's being transparent with his team. They have an opportunity to get better. They will, even if it means cutting guys. It's AFR.
AFR.
GLO, glowresources.com. They are complete employer solutions, Glow Resources and glowresources.com. If you're a business owner and you need the right people to make your business the most effective, efficient, profitable it can be, you need the right people, and you need Glow Resources because that's what they do. At Glow Resources, they cast their net far and wide to find the right people to make your business the most efficient it can be. Whatever position you might be looking for, skilled blue-collar labor or any type of office job, from an office assistant up to the C-suite. And not just in Baton Rouge or just in Louisiana. They help build businesses all over the country, place employees in jobs all over the world. So start online at GLO, glowresources.com, glowresources.com. They are complete employer solutions at Glow Resources. If you go to the website, glowresources.com/careers, you could see a look at all the different jobs that they're searching right now to kind of get a sense of what they do. Check them out online at GLO, glowresources.com. Brought to you by Insurance Network of Louisiana. Better coverage for less money. That's what they do. You want to boil it down simply, that's what they do. Better coverage, less money. If you like overpaying to be underinsured, then stick with what you got. But if you want someone to shop independently for free to find you better coverage for less money, that's where Insurance Network of Louisiana comes in. Now, we're talking about home, auto, all different types of insurance, but I want to remind you as well, if you're a business owner, that Insurance Network of Louisiana can help with your business insurance as well. Quite literally any type of business. They actually crush it for restaurants and bars. If you're a restaurant owner, you need to let Insurance Network of Louisiana shop independently for free to find you better coverage for less money. Say it all the time. Literally, the worst thing that can happen is they go shop and they come back and they go, hey, what you have right now is great. We couldn't find anything better. Great. At least you know. Or maybe they go and they get you better coverage and save you money. 293-0450, 293-0450. Call right now, 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding. And we do shutters too.
Regular season, preseason does not matter. Those ones aren't the ones you want. That was a big time missed opportunity for us. Starts with me. We didn't respond the right way. Thought we had a really good week out here as far as the workload that we got. We just missed an opportunity at the end of this week, and obviously it's really frustrating. At the end of the day, film is your resume in this league. Coaches, players. We didn't coach well enough to prepare ourselves to take advantage of this opportunity, and so obviously, hopefully, it's going to be a really valuable lesson for our team, a response opportunity for our team moving forward with one more week of essentially preseason football, preparation week, and a game in Dallas. So.
But what a dud. Saints got their heads kicked in by the Rams 34-0. I don't even care about the results so much. I mean, do you remember who the Saints played in the preseason last year?
All I remember is the Arizona Cardinals. That's it.
I don't even remember that. It just doesn't matter. The results of the game, it really doesn't matter. It's not about it's weird to say, preseason game or like midweek games. You're keeping score. Sorry, I don't want to go there.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't. Kind of.
Yeah, you do.
Like, yes, they're keeping score, but really, genuinely, like it doesn't matter. What matters for preseason games are guys are trying to win jobs. And so that's the disappointing part is like Zach Wilson had a chance to maybe take a step to solidifying the number 2 job. Both kickers absolutely suck. That's why they signed Daniel Carlson today. Like there's a lot of things therein. You would have loved to have seen with the injuries at running back, someone make a move. If it was Kendre Miller, Ty Chandler fumbled at the goal line. Like everyone sucked and there's nothing good. So regrettably, we'll give you some takeaways from that game, but maybe even more importantly, the Saints have added a kicker and traded for a running back. So we'll get some of those personnel moves coming up here in just a smidge. It's after further review. We're glad to have you hanging out with us here. How about Max Johnson? Congrats if you missed this, former LSU Tiger. And I mean this in the most sincere way possible. Max Johnson's been named the starting quarterback at Georgia Directional State. If Georgia State, Georgia Southern. Yeah, Georgia Southern. That's it. Georgia Southern in the Sun Belt named Max Johnson their starting quarterback. So the guy who was a starting quarterback for Ed Ogeron at LSU, for Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, and for Mac Brown at North Carolina is now the starting quarterback at Georgia Southern. He's persevered through a lot, man. He has had some tough luck and some devastating injuries, but guy loves football. He keeps at it, and good for him. So he'll debut against Charleston Southern there at Georgia Southern. Week 2, they face Clemson. So congrats to Max Johnson, who has persevered through a devastating leg injury, but loves ball and keeps going at it. And he'll have an opportunity to start at Georgia Southern. So another storyline worth keeping an eye on when kickoff takes place this weekend, and of course week 1 a week from Saturday. All right, it's after further review. We're glad to have you hanging out with us here. We do it every day about this time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference. The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Okay, we got quarterback news. Keelan Russell has been named the starting quarterback for Alabama. Senior Austin Mack, who followed Kalen DeBose from Washington, gets beat out by the redshirt freshman. I'm sure this is going to go awesome for Alabama. Good luck with that. Bama is burning.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
Faison Brandon, true freshman, has been named the starting quarterback at Tennessee. He beats out George McIntyre, a former Alabama quarterback who clearly stinks as well because he got beaten out by a true freshman. This will be the first true freshman to start for Tennessee since Brent Schaefer in 2004. Balls open against Furman September 5th.
The Florida Gators.
Aaron Philo, the Georgia Tech transfer, has been named Florida's starter. He beat out redshirt freshman Tramel Jones. They competed through spring and fall camp. So he was in line to start at Georgia Tech, but he followed offensive coordinator Buster Faulkner from Atlanta to Gainesville. This felt like a foregone conclusion, but now it is official. Aaron Philo starting for Florida.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Meanwhile, 13 days ahead of Arkansas's season opener against North Alabama, Ryan Silverfield has named KJ Jackson the starting quarterback for the Hogs. Remember KJ Jackson? He was one of those quarterbacks that was just absolutely horrific against LSU. Well, that's everybody from Arkansas. He's 6'4", 225. He beat out Memphis transfer A.J. Hill for the position. Jackson played in 5 games a year ago with 1 start against Missouri.
The Missouri Tigers.
Mizzou's going to be without running back Ahmad Hardy for the season opener. He still has not practiced this offseason. Remember, he was shot in the upper leg back in May. Thankfully, not life-threatening, but still working to get back. Hardy enters the season as really one of the most accomplished players in the SEC. Led the SEC in rushing a year ago. Was a first-team All-America a season ago. Was number 2 in the nation in rushing. Missouri opens the season against Arkansas Pine Bluff on September the 3rd. Then they're at Kansas on September the 11th.
The Kentucky Wildcats.
And Missouri star transfer Mark Mitchell has applied to the University of Kentucky admissions office. So Mitchell got a TRO, entered the portal on Friday with a do not contact tag, and now looks like he's trying to transfer within the conference. So we're talking about LSU football adding some Ole Miss players. Well, here's a basketball note with Mark Mitchell looking to go from Missouri to Kentucky. We'll see what the commish has to say about that. Okay, there you have it. That is Around the SEC. We're brought to you by the Williamson Eye Center, WilliamsonEye.com, WilliamsonEye.com. If you want to see 2020, call 924-2020 or go to williamsoneye.com. Remember, eye care, eyewear, eye surgery, they do it all. You can have your annual eye exam at the Williamson Eye Center. If you wear contacts or glasses, they can update your prescription at the Williamson Eye Center. But if you want to ditch the contacts and glasses forever, the Williamson Eye Center can help with a great refractive procedure. 924-2020, 924-2020, or williamsoneye.com, williamsoneye.com for the Williamson Eye Center. Okay, it is After Further Review. Thanks for hanging out with us here on this Monday edition of AFR presented by Relief Windows. In light of amid all of this chaos and roster building and rotation, the LSU Tigers did scrimmage Saturday in Tiger Stadium. If you follow along at louisianasports.net or Locked on LSU, which is my podcast, I hope that you would go subscribe, podcast or YouTube. Thank you. I did give you a scrimmage report, so we'll go through some of those notes. And even since Saturday, I have spoken to a few more people who were there to get a little more context even still. This was not open to the media, but I want to go through some of my scrimmage notes. And Lane Kiffin was asked, well, I asked him about it on Monday, and he even said this is going to be a very vague, nondescript answer, which he gave us just a total mouthful of cliches. But anyway, we'll talk about that coming up in about 20 minutes after the top of the hour. When we come back, the Saints lost their preseason game. It was hideous, but they continue to lose players as well due to injuries. They made a trade for a running back, and they added a place kicker. I want to talk about that when we come back to wrap up hour number one. Stay here. It's AFR.
After Further Review.
We're brought to you by the Watermark and the Renaissance. Watermark Downtown, Renaissance Southtown. Hey, remember at Renaissance Baton Rouge, they can actually host these custom dinners for you. If you want a private custom dinner party, they can do that for you at Renaissance Baton Rouge. They have a private room area blocked off where they partition. They can have a prefix menu if you want. Let's say you have a private gathering that you're looking to host. You could do that right there at Tallulah inside of Renaissance Baton Rouge. Just one of the many ways that Renaissance opens up for all different types of events and possibilities. Yes, the Grand Ballroom can host 500 people. So wedding reception, that's a big wedding, but a wedding reception, awards banquets, any type of conference for your business, whatever it may be, they can host it there at Renaissance Baton Rouge. You need a boardroom for a dozen people, they can do that as well at Renaissance Baton Rouge. It's so convenient. Right there on Bluebonnet, near I-10, across from the Mall of Louisiana and Perkins Row. Call my friend Allison Crump today at Renaissance Baton Rouge.
After Further Review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
We're wrapping up hour number one. Thanks for hanging out with us here. Ross Jackson will join us in hour three. I'll talk a little Who-Dat. Saints got their head kicked in by the Rams on Saturday, 34-0. It was atrocious all the way around. God bless you if you watched it. If you made it all the way through. There was really nothing good, genuinely nothing good. But coming out of that, the Saints recognized with even more injuries and poor play, they need to get better. There's an old adage in the NFL, you're never staying the same. You're always getting better or you're getting worse. You are never staying the same in the NFL. An NFL roster is an organic, living, breathing thing. It is constantly moving and evolving. So if you're stationary, you are losing. There's just no such thing. So you're always looking at ways to improve your roster, however that may be. And so coming out of this weekend at running back, where the Saints know they're without Alvin Kamara for a month because of a knee injury, where Audric Estime is battling an ankle injury, Devin Neal pulled a hammy, you are paper thin at running back. And so the Saints went and did something about it. They traded Deion Jones for Zamir White. Now, on one hand, this is super disappointing because we were all pretty pumped about seeing Deion Jones come back to New Orleans. From New Orleans, played at Jesuit, went to LSU, and now is going to have an opportunity after playing for every other team in the division, the Bucs, Falcons, and Panthers. He was finally going to get a chance to play in his hometown, and that was really cool. Now, this also felt like it was going to be a long shot for Debo to make the Saints just because of the depth at linebacker. You paid Caden Ellis a bunch of money. You've still got Pete Werner hanging around. We're all very high on Danny Stutzman, guys like Isaiah Stallbird, Jalen Ford. You're young there. And so Debo, I think, was going to have an uphill climb to make this team anyway. So this is one of those instances where you didn't have to give up anything to sign Deion Jones, and you were able to flip it now for a resource in bringing in Zamir White. Now, Zamir White, I don't know. Zamir White's interesting because when he was at Georgia, if you remember, he was a super highly regarded prospect. One of the top running backs in America. I mean, he was a consensus 5-star recruit. He goes to Georgia, had offers from everybody. And during his Georgia career, he plays 3 seasons there, but never really went off. And it was a crowded backfield. There was James Cook and Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton. But after 3 years, he goes into the NFL draft anyway. So he goes into the draft, and he ends up being a 4th-round pick of the Raiders. And over 4 years with the Raiders, it just never really clicked. He played in just 45 games, started just 9 times. Only 1 out of 4 seasons did he play the full season. He finished this past year on injured reserve, which ended his season, and then the Raiders didn't re-sign him. He was a free agent. He signed a 1-year deal with the 49ers, and now in camp with the Niners, who obviously have Christian McCaffrey there, they were willing to trade for a linebacker in Deion Jones. So it was a pretty good swap for the 2 teams who were thin at those 2 positions. So the Niners get a linebacker, the Saints get a running back. I don't know that Zamir White has a realistic opportunity to make this team. I think that very much depends on Alvin Kamara, Audric Estime, Devin Neal, their health. So we know that Travis Etienne is going to make this team. I mean, you paid him $54 million. So you've got Etienne. And how long is Kamara going to be out? Clearly, he's not going to start the season on IR if you think he's out a month. So he'll be back at some point early in the season. So you have those 2 that are very obvious. I think you have now a real question about, well, what about Kendre Miller? Do the injuries to Estime and Neal open the door for Miller? I mean, Ty Chandler had the 86-yard kickoff return in the preseason opener, and then fumbled at the goal line on Saturday. So that's been a little up and down. What you certainly need is a camp body, because you're not going to go run Travis Etienne against Dallas in the 3rd preseason game. Like, I would be stunned if he even sees the field. So you have to have somebody that can get out there and take a handoff. But at the same time, you could always go just sign someone off the street if you just need a camp body. So this feels like more than that, and maybe the opportunity to bring someone in who, although he's battled injuries in his career, maybe has a higher ceiling, is still a young pro. Zamir White's only 26 years old, so he'll be 27 on September the 18th. So still a young veteran who's got experience. He has battled injuries. He had a torn ACL during his true freshman season there at Georgia, and obviously he's battled injuries now during his time in the NFL. But if he can stay healthy, it's a guy who has some ability, could maybe be a good piece there behind your first 2 of Etienne and Kamara, again, depending on when Alvin Kamara is back. As for the Saints kickers, this is one that really stings. It's a little surprising to see Charlie Smith and Tanner Brown both still on the roster, because they both stink right now. And maybe I'm just conditioned from watching Sean Payton for all those years with Sean and them kickers. Dude, miss a kick, you're cut. And these 2 guys right now have really struggled to create any type of separation. And so the Saints have added Daniel Carlson. You might remember Daniel Carlson. He was awesome at Auburn. And he was so good that he actually was taken with a 5th-round pick by the Minnesota Vikings. Like, it's rare that kickers get selected at all. And to be a 5th-round pick in Minnesota was incredible. Well, Minnesota cut him in his 2nd season in the league. He just really, really struggled there right out the gate. But after getting cut by Minnesota, he goes to the Raiders and really found his stride, and ended up becoming 2nd-team All-Pro in 2021 and 1st-team All-Pro in 2022. His career field goal percentage is 86.9, and last year with the Raiders was made 22 out of his 27. So not awesome, but still a guy who has experience and has an incredible leg, and you would hope could maybe add some competition and stability to that position group. It's a little odd to me that Carlson hasn't found consistency throughout his career, because he was an all-pro kicker with the Raiders just 4 seasons ago, that has unraveled the way that it has. But this is a guy who gives you something that you don't have in the other 2. Charlie Smith is obviously Irish, who's trying to find his way into professional football. Tanner Brown was in the UFL, who's trying to find his way into the NFL. Well, here's the guy, Daniel Carlson, who was an All-American kicker at Auburn, who's been an All-Pro kicker in the NFL. Maybe the change of scenery, kicking indoors in the Dome. Obviously, the Raiders play indoors as well there at Allegiant. But maybe this is something, a change of scenery, and another opportunity that will help Daniel Carlson. But mostly, you got to give yourself another option because the two you have right now just aren't good enough NFL kickers to just rely on them to try to figure it out. So bringing some competition in, the guy that's a former All-Pro, co-sign, 10 out of 10. See how it goes here in the final preseason game. All right, it's After Further Review. We're brought to you by Arco Power Systems, ARCCO, Arco.com, Arco.com, Arco.com. It's Arco Power Systems. This is industrial generator power. And when storm season is here, we talk all the time. As a matter of fact, I was doing some show prep up in my office. I mean, it was dark as night outside with that storm cell that just came through, and our lights flickered a few times. Maybe your power went out. Well, what happens when your power goes out? Well, at home, you have a Generac home standby generator. What about your business? What happens to your business when the power goes out? You just cease operations? No. That's where Arco comes in. Industrial Generac generator power. This is Generac generator power for your business, energy for your business. If you have a commercial or industrial facility, any type of business, and you need a backup power option when the power goes out, Arco, ARCCO, and everything's turnkey. They sell, service, install, rent industrial Generac generators. Arco.com, ARCCO, Arco.com, Arco.com, Arco.com. Okay, it's After Further Review. Monday show is brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. We'll get you caught up on national headlines from SportsCenter. When we come back, LSU had a scrimmage Saturday in Tiger Stadium. I got some notes I'll share with you when we come back to kick off hour number 2 of AFR.
After Further Review.
So pleased to tell you about our friends over at FMOL Health, Our Lady of the Lake, championship health partner of LSU Athletics. Yes, Lane Kiffin and Sam Levitt and Jordan Seaton and Trey'Dez Green and so many of the elite-level LSU football players trust the Lake with their health care. But that same level of care is available to you and your family and everyday champions every single day. If it's your primary care physician, I told you before, I'm a member of the Our Lady of the Lake Men's Health Group with Dr. Curtis Chastain, Dr. Tyler Boudreau, Dr. Oscar Schoenfeld. It's awesome. One of the best decisions I've made for my personal health in my life, quite honestly. If it's emergency care, I certainly experienced that a few weeks ago when I had an emergency appendectomy. But we take Drew to the Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital. In the clinic there, he sees many of their specialists. Maybe it's heart care, stroke, cancer. Our Lady of the Lake delivers world-class care right here at home. FMOLhealth.org/LSU. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU, together we roar.